Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Michael Martinez. Today I'm going to be talking to you all about the opioid crisis in America. Does anybody know what opioid stands for or what an opioid is? Today I'm going to be talking to you. So it is a type of drug. Do you know what kind of drugs opioids relate to? Opioids mainly relate to like heroin, fentanyl, methamphetamine, all of those. It's a very big crisis here in America, and we're gonna talk about it. So, does anybody know what really it? I just messed up. But opioid is a drug that is supposed to be prescribed to you by your doctor. Back then, they used to prescribe it to you, and they didn't see a problem with this back then because there was no results of it being an addicting medication. But this, in fact, can be a very dangerous medication. It can be highly addicting and cause overdose and deaths. Then, the misuse of pain relievers, heroin, fentanyl are all opioid overdose crises. That's like if you went to the nurse's office, they would only give you one like Advil because of that, the opioid crisis. That would be considered an opioid. Pain relievers like Tylenol, they can be addicting, especially Advil. All the substances are, according to the drug abuse, are being high risk of opioid overdose. Nearly 5,000 people die a year just from opioid overdose, and this ends up costing about $75 billion, including with the healthcare programs, and it lowers the productivity and adds criminal involvement in your cities because of the heroin and the opioid that you would be getting from that. Any questions so far?
When it said Advil, would like ibuprofen be like that too?
Yes.
Like an opioid?
Yes, and ibuprofen would be a sort of opioid.
So like all medication is an opioid?
Not necessarily. If it's prescribed to you, then it is prescribed to you and you know what you have to take. But like an Advil bottle, you don't typically take 2, or you typically take like 3. So
yeah.
And then you keep doing that and it keeps making it addicting to your body and gets used to your body taking 3. So then you start taking more, and you start taking more, and then it just keeps building that that opioid craving. And so then roughly an estimated of 1.5 million people in the U.S. are suffering from this every day. These people cannot be held because they're just too deep into this crisis that that is very highly terrible for them. The prescriptions are very highly addicting, so just keep that in mind. So how and where did the opioid crisis start? And I'll talk about it. Back in the late 1900s, many pharmacies thought that it was okay to, many pharmaceutical companies decided that it was going to be okay to release heroin and fentanyl and methamphetamine as a type of medicine that would help these patients. But in fact, it actually made these patients worse by making them addicted to the medication. Since then, the opioids have been prescribed at a much greater rate than ever before. You can see here the death rate from total of male and female, male being this one and female being this one. Back in 2019, you can't see it, but back in 2019, the death rate was probably about like 75,000 people, roughly. And then doing this, letting people take medications such as Tylenol, methamphetamine, and stuff back in the day, this automatically widespreaded worldwide, And the diversion of these medications is not clear that the medication was highly addicting, which led to many deaths, as you can see. So how is America going about the opioid crisis, and what are we doing to change that? Does anybody know what we do today to help manage the opioid crisis?
Doctors don't prescribe it as much.
Doctors don't prescribe it as much. Doctors don't prescribe you methamphetamine or what was the other one?
So doctors prescribed methamphetamine before?
Yes, they used to. They didn't think it was a highly addicting chemical.
So, do they like try and like avoid this by like selling some medication behind the counter, like keeping most medication behind the counter and selling it from like
The ones that
like
are
prescribing it to you,
Yes.
and then like only keeping like less addictive
Yes.
ones?
So they'll
Over-counter.
actually make your dose smaller than what it typically should be, just so that your body's more accustomed to a lower dose than what a higher dose would be. And so America, for starters, they advanced their practice in pain relieving medications, pain relieving techniques that really helps you not have to take those medications and potentially have addicting chemicals in your body. They've also done more research on the medication to advance them so they become less addicting to you. Although the medication is still addicting, because opioids are still addicting till this day, there is no stopping that. The side effects were put in place for people, or I'm sorry, I don't know why there's side effects, but they created, they created like a website that you can see all the information about the opioid crisis and all the information that you can find on that, the death rate and all that, to better understand the real crisis of the opioids. So why should you not use opioids medications without being aware? Does anybody know? You don't know why you shouldn't use opioid medications
wait,
without you being
Because
aware?
it could be harmful to you. if it's
Yes.
prescribed to you.
Because it could possibly kill you
It could possibly kill you
and build an addiction,
and build an addiction, yes.
a craving.
A craving, yes. So, and we don't want that. So, nearly 1 million people suffer from opioid disorders. Like I said, every day. Opioids can cause many difficulties for the brain and your body to function. It actually starts to shut down your organs and your livers and your kidneys. Without you being aware that the medication is addicting, and it's dangerous in many ways because it creates a habit that you keep taking the medication constantly, causing substance abuse. The drug could be synthetic medication and not the correct medication supposed to be taken. So any medication that you're getting out there is not the right medication. You want to get that prescribed by your doctor. And like I said, your doses would be smaller than typical street doses, if you would, synthetic. And then, so any questions on so far?
What does synthetic mean?
Synthetic meaning it's like fake or like a replica. Or,
So can CBD be like an opioid?
not necessarily, because it doesn't cause any damage to you, and it hasn't shown any statistics on deaths or damages. And opioids really cause addicting,
So like heroin, meth, all that.
tretinoin, all of that. Yes,
Cocaine.
yes, very addicting chemicals, and this is a very big like crisis here in America because that's how nearly half the homeless rate is due to the opioid rates. Because back in the day, like I said, it was prescribed to you.
Is nicotine an opioid?
Nicotine could be considered an opioid, yes.
Can poppers be considered an opioid?
Yes, poppers could be considered an opioid. And that concludes my information.
Discards.
Poppers are a thing that people use for like personal reasons.
Yeah.
Like you're cropping this part out, right?
Huh?
You're cropping this part out, right?
No, like us talking about it right now.
I can't edit none of it.
Oh.
So this is how it's gonna get sent.
So it's hearing us talk right now, and
Yes.
he's gonna hear that.
Yes.
Oh.
So that's why I was asking if there was any other questions that you would wanted to answer before I concluded my statement here. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Alright, is anybody in your family struggling with opioid crisis?
Yes.
Okay, do you know how to deal with the opioid crisis with all that?
She's dealing with prison.
Okay. Alright, well that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for coming with me.
You're welcome.
Perfect.
You could have
Oh.